Before we get started, would you like some fun dragon facts for kids?
Yes, I would.
So a dragon has 0 to 4 legs, claws, scales, and possibly spikes, and it may also have wings. Sometimes they have horns and hair. A dragon can usually fly. Some dragons live in caves, and dragons hoard precious metals and jewels.
Yeah, I like the last part. Gold.
Are you ready to talk about dragons?
I am.
Okay. In this game, the player, or players, it's the two of us, we're in a land full of dragons. The dragons all live in caves with their large piles of collected treasure. Some dragons are friendly and share their treasure. Other dragons are hungry and eat anyone who enters their cave. The players approach 2 caves, one with a friendly dragon and the other with a hungry dragon. But we don't know which dragon is in which cave, and we have to choose between the two. So we're going to take all of this and put it into a Shiny app.
All right. This will be good.
If we think about this like in terms of running an R script, this wouldn't be the most complex thing. Like if I was just going to do dragonrealm.r.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is almost, oh gosh, this is what, like an if else statement, right?
Yeah, with a menu that you can ask the user for input. Good, but there's like kind of like 3 big UIs that we need to look at, right? The intro UI, like, and choose a cave. There would be like then the logic that we check, and then ask to play again. Like, I don't know, they can appear, not appear if I was to make a game.
The way that I start a Shiny app, I haven't programmed a Shiny app in a really long time. It's been a month. So I do Shiny app and then I shift tab. And that, my friends, is the shortcut that I have to share with you. How do we go about this, Barret? Like, I am very inclined to design a beautiful UI first. And I know that that is like what we saw with Winston and Wordle with Nick and Winston. Like, should we always be designing the logic of our app first? Or should we make it beautiful first?
I am a fan of logic.
You were saying, so how do we start this?
I really like that flowchart.
Okay.
So I think we can turn that into like some comments here, and then we can try to fill in some functions.
Okay. This is our flowchart. And so step 1 is we start, and I'm going to just be going back and forth between screens. So then introductory text, and then player chooses a cave. All right, and then we check for a hungry dragon or a friendly dragon. I feel like this is a false dichotomy. Like, you can be hungry. I mean, can you be hungry and friendly, though? Maybe not.
No, it's usually just hangry.
Player should bring him a Snickers. All right. And then we ask to play again. And then we end. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, I guess if you play again, you could like go through as many times as you want. But ultimately, the game, like if you say no, then it's an end.
Yeah, we'll do a line after 20 and say, if yes, go to start.
Right. And we can do else.
So where can we do logic that has nothing to do with Shiny at all?
So logic that has nothing to do with Shiny. I guess what I'm thinking is introductory text, maybe. So this is an output. Do we do a text output?
Yeah, that works for me.
I'm just gonna copy paste this introductory text.
Let's actually do one more thing above line 5 and add, I just default to H1s, and let's just say H1 intro. Like, what stage are we at in this UI?
Okay, so which one? Intro. We'll do a comma because we're working with Shiny. And I am going to set this up to run in my viewer pane.
And the text output doesn't need to be as shiny. The text output is expecting an output
right.
matchup. So this is more like a paragraph, so just a p tag. Yeah.
Look at that. Boom. Great. Game done. Okay. Is there anything else? Let's see. Is there anything else we can do that would not be Shiny related? I don't think so, because any other text is now buried behind decisions.
True, but we can also just kind of put everything in one big layout at the beginning, and we just, we'll only update certain parts of the UI. So we could ask them the question then for which cave do you want to do, and maybe add in 2 buttons that don't do anything. So we could do, let's do this. Which cave would you like to enter? I'll put that in there. Okay, so which cave will you go into, 1 or 2? And then we want 2 buttons. So we could do action button, input ID, and this will be, we can call it cave 1. Yeah, we can do the label of cave 1, please. Aw, I missed Shiny. Okay, so this should give us... Oh, and they're right next to each other, too. I don't know why I expected them to stack, but perfect. Fun surprises. So let's try to separate the intro and the question. So let's add another H1 above line 10. Great. And probably because we're going from the intro to the question, we'll need like a continue button. Ooh, I like that. So you're saying here we'll do action button, put ID equals continue. And we'll do maybe like an intro continue because there kind of seems to be lots of transitions. That's a good point. Intro under. Oh yeah, under, sorry. All right, so then there's, I would say, what, an answer? Like a response? Yeah. Consequences. All right. Dramatic. It's very dramatic. So this would be a text output of some kind, right? Because something's happening. Okay. But would we do it as a P for now, just as like... Yeah, we could have win text and lose text. Yeah, win text, lose text. Okay. And then if we look at our flow charts, so that's this, and then we ask if they want to play again. Play again? And then that would be, I guess, another button. Mm-hmm. Or 2. Yes, action button, input ID equals play again. And then we would do one that is end game. And we can just say no, thank you. All right. And we'll switch the input IDs to be underscores, just because subsetting in R doesn't like minus signs because it's actually interpreted as a minus. So what I feel like is there's a couple directions we can go. One is, we know when we play this game, we're not going to have the whole thing just laid out, right? We're going to see an intro, and then the button is going to take us to this, and then, right, so there's different kind of UI
pieces that show, or like we break this UI up into pages or fancy programming term. So that's one direction to go. Another would be the logic of like, oh, I click cave 1 and then I see this consequence text.
Let's do some of the logic for hooking up the buttons, because we can see everything right here, and that way debugging is a lot faster because we don't need to go through 4 screens to see if we want to play again. And then we can just print a message just to know that it's hooked up, but it doesn't actually have to do anything.
We've got intro underscore continue as our action button in our UI. So now we're going to come all the way down to our server. And what do I hook up? Oh my gosh, my brain is blank.
So we want side effects only, and we want to do it when the button is pressed.
So observe event.
Yes.
Okay. That was like a rough moment. Like, my brain just forgot everything. Okay, so it wants the event expression. So is that just input intro underscore continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Spelling on input.
Thank you. Pair programming.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And we always add comma curly brackets because it's just always an expression.
Okay, so observe event, input, intro, continue, and then you said something really important that I did.
We'll do comma curly brackets because the action that we'll take should be a bigger expression. So we want to make sure we have the curly brackets.
And so since we're just hooking it up, would we just do like, is it print? Is it message?
I like message.
Okay.
Message. Continue button was pressed or something.
Okay. So if we just run this, what should happen is when I click the continue button, we get our message in our console. Perfect. So then we just kind of continue that for cave 1, cave 2, play again, and no thank you.
Correct.
So when we're talking about side effects, could you do a quick recap? What is a side effect in Shiny?
Side effect is there should be no follow-up reactivity. So there's nothing else to calculate, and a side effect would be like printing a message to the console.
Right.
Saving a file.
Right. Because if we print to the console, like there's nothing that's going to happen after that.
Correct.
Look at that. All of our buttons. Whoops. Caught it. Made a mistake. There we go. Play again. End game. Excellent. Buttons are hooked up.
Cool. And when we go through this app development, how I'd act personally, I leave messages until the very end. Because if you may have hooked it up now, but it may get unhooked due to something. And so then it's just nice to have, especially since this is a very flowchart workflow.
Yes. So you're saying I could make mistakes in my code and unhook my buttons.
Yes. Let's do a little bit more about the consequences. Let's fill in the dragon logic, the cave logic. Let's actually make this function outside of Shiny.
Okay. If I put something down here, does Shiny ever see it? Like if I write a function here, is Shiny going to be like, oh, there's that function? Or is this like scratch paper?
So it will, because it is outside the server function is only parsed. It is not executed immediately. It is only executed when the file is returned. The only thing that you need to do is 67, where it says Shiny app. That needs to be returned from the file. So that needs to be the last thing. That's the only requirement.
Okay.
So actually, the server function and the UI definition above is all free form. You can do anything you want in any order as long as 67 is the last thing that's returned.
Okay, so we're going to develop a function. So, I mean, can we call it consequences, or are we going to get ourselves in trouble with too much
Sure.
naming things? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll set up our function.
And before
And
we do it, we'll move 67 below our flowchart comments so that it's the last thing returned. Great.
like, I didn't hear anything you just said. Consequences. We are going to write a function. So the input, the argument to the function is going to be is it cave? Well, it's cave 1 or cave 2.
So we could say cave number.
Okay.
There's ways that we can actually like distill it down to a coin flip, but I like the idea of cave number.
Is this where we would set like friendly dragon, not friendly dragon?
How would you define friendly dragon in code? Is the thing. So if we're doing a coin toss eventually, friendly dragon the match or the not match?
I guess I would say like, well, one, it theoretically doesn't matter, right? Like we just have to make a decision. I would want the friendly dragon to be a match, right? Like he's going to be.
I like it.
Okay.
That idea goes really well because if we had 3 caves, you could have 2 angry dragons and 1 friendly dragon. I'm more thinking this of like a coin toss at a basketball game or a football game, right? If you guess the toss, then or you guess the random value, then you win.
Okay.
And so you could have like a 6-sided die, and if you guess the side of the die, you found the friendly dragon, or a 2-sided die. That could exist.
Right. So would we just sample? Would we just sample 1 or 2?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna sample. So sample is gonna be. Is it just 1 to 2? Size equals 1. Replace equals fall. I guess it does, replace doesn't actually matter.
Correct, because size is 1.
Yep.
And if that's always, let's go ahead and kill the shiny app so that you can like run line 69 like 5-6 times.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
I was like, what?
Buy a lottery ticket. You got a lot of.
That is unexpected. All right, so we're gonna sample, and then we want to assign this to something, right?
Yeah, we could say friendly.
Okay. Okay, so basically, I want if cave number. Oh, wait a minute. I want my cave number, so that's whatever button they've pressed.
So we can imagine that's the number 1 or 2.
So would I just do cave number equals friendly?
And then if that's true, what would you do?
So I guess it would be something like, congratulations, you have a new dragon friend. Right?
Then what if it's not friendly?
So then it would be else womp womp, you've been eaten. Okay, so that's the basic logic. So if the cave number equals whatever we've set as it. So if we have a match, great, you've got a dragon friend. If not, you've been eaten. So this is fairly straightforward, but now we need to hook up consequences to our button press, right?
And before we do that, we test the function just to see that it works.
That's fair.
As we expect.
All right, so the best way to test this...
Same idea, but starting at 67.
Thank you. All right, so then I could do like friendly 1. Nope, because that's not the name of the function. Oh, we got eaten. All right. We've got a new dragon friend. So it's picking up. Yeah, it looks like perfect. It works. We wrote a function.
Okay, so now we have consequences. This returns the response text, so that is pretty cool. Don't we? Can we scroll up to the UI definition to see if the response text is, say, text output? I think you're wanting that 428. Yeah, text output. We could call this consequence text, maybe.
Okay, so output ID equals concept.
So then we can observe event in cave 1 or 2, like we are already doing, and what little pitfall are we about ready to do?
I'm not putting a reactive inside my observer, right?
Correct.
I feel like that's that's just an unfriendly dragon. It's like an unfriendly dragon that will climb out of your computer. We do not put reactives inside observers.
Or renders.
Or renders, but renders are, yeah.
Yeah, renders are reactive-ish. Yeah, so we don't do that. So we still need to render text somewhere. So where do we do that?
Well, obviously it's outside the observer.
So we can just start it then. Just since it's near cave 1, cave 2 logic and not near the play again, let's just do it like after 55.
Okay, so in here. Yeah. And this would be output, and then this has to match
a really long name that I like to give.
It's descriptive. All right, so output consequence text, and that could we just do consequences function?
So if we did that, there would be no reactive or reactivity. Like you would not be able to click a button because consequences would only occur once.
Right.
So we need a render text to pair with the text output.
Okay, so then can it be render text consequences?
Closer, warmer. So consequences, since it's now inside the render text, great.
Okay.
But
we haven't given it like a cave number.
Yes.
So I want the output of consequences text, and then I want it to print the consequence. I want it to print either friendly or not friendly response based on cave number, and cave number is going to be whether this button was pressed or this button was pressed.
So if we were to write this in normal R code, how would you, not reactive code, would you use a variable in between?
Yes. Yeah, I would say like cave number. Mm-hmm. Can I put that in? Where would I put my cave number?
Let's go ahead and put a cave number in there in 57. Yeah, cave number. And then we'll pretend that it's reactive, and we'll then create it.
Okay.
So we have our cave number there.
Right. Okay. So then, is it cave number? Is it reactive val? Reactive value?
I like reactive val. There might be a more elegant solution by doing reactive or something else, but I like the idea of doing reactive val. It's very explicit and you have very fine-tuned control.
Okay, so then my reactive val is, I guess where I'm still stuck is like I have two separate buttons and I don't know how to put which one was clicked inside my reactive.
So if we were to do this in a normal if statement, you would be like, if button was pressed, then code, and you would say like 1 is cave number, and then else if button 2 is pressed, then 2 is cave number. So how do we assign to a reactive val value? Like how do we assign a new, like update the reactive val.
Is there an update? Is there like an update function?
Not yet.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and go after line 50.
Okay.
Because cave 1 was pressed in line 50. We know we're in that situation. So then we'll say cave under number, parentheses 1.
Wait, cave.
Yeah, number, parentheses 1.
Wait, what the heck is that?
So that's how you can update a reactive val. You submit a new number.
What?
Mm-hmm.
So then this will be cave number 2.
Yes.
And is this just gonna work now?
I hope so. Text output.
Listen, first of all.
Missing T.
Argument is of length 0.
Correct. So this is actually a consequences function. But
okay.
we can probably skip the consequences function because I like how it is. It's very independent of Shiny. We'll leave it as is. Okay. But let's update our render text on line 60.
Okay.
And this is also why, like earlier, we were trying to move in very small steps because we have a thing of length 0 and we did like 5 different new things in the app. So which one was it? Yeah. So inside the render text, the default, actually what we can do in 59, let's do this one first. 59, the default value is null. Well, let's just pretend that they always picked cave 1.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the reactive val of 1.
Okay, so we would just do that?
Yeah, and then let's run the app and see if that fixes our arg0. Great. Okay, so stuff is happening in the console, but is not happening there. So let's go check our function.
Okay, yes. So we've got a message, right? So our function prints out a message. So if we were running this independent of Shiny, our message is printing out to the console. If we were doing this like in a standard R script, that is behaving as we would expect.
True, but the function needs to return the text, not display the text.
So can I just do return?
You can do return. Since it's also the last thing in the function, you can just take off the return parentheses completely.
Oh.
And so it'll take, yeah, perfect.
Easier. So if we reload. Okay. Great.
And this is now kind of fun because the consequences is random. It's not like, oh, cave 1 is always friendly. If you refresh the app 3-4 times, then the consequences text should change. So you are very lucky.
There we go. Okay, so we got the consequences text to come on. There we go. Oh, there we go. We've changed. It works.
Cool.
That's great. But we're still not hooked up to our button. Well,
that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's okay. So you should be able to hit cave 1, cave 2, and it should at least, it may be the same text, but
yeah. So it's not like actually reading what I'm. Because it's recalculating each time. We haven't like linked it up.
Recalculates each time.
Okay, so each time I click this button, it is independently running sample.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, but you should only be able to guess once.
And so that's where like intro should only be displayed, then question should only be displayed. You click the button once, then you go immediately to the consequences. You're not allowed to click the button again.
Got it. Okay, so is this where we've got kind of the logic plugged in. Is this where we start? So is this now where we would like chop everything up into 4 screens?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, you sent me a Slack message and my response was the what?
The what?
You had said today is going to be all about tabsetPanel type equals hidden, tab panel body with transitions via observe event and update tabsetPanel.
If you actually want to pull up the help for tabsetPanel in that quadrant there, perfect. Great. And so let's scroll down and look at the examples. Just kind of
That's how we read help documentation.
And
Okay.
what we're going to do is this second example, the UI one in the middle, where we have a tab panel body.
Oh, down here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what this is, so tabsetPanel is you normally have like something that you can click on to change the different tab sets.
Mm-hmm.
If you do type is hidden, those things that you can click on disappear. Like the titles are gone. And yes, a little spooky, but the way you transition is using the update tabsetPanel function. So it's programmatic. So we know when the button is clicked, we programmatically change to the next thing. We know when something happens, we change to the next thing.
Okay.
So it's not spooky, but we can do this as a tab panel and then transition to a tab panel body once it works.
Okay, so I don't need to. I'm not doing a sidebar layout main panel, but I would pick up from like tab panel.
Yes. So we can just tabsetPanel there.
Oh, tabsetPanel. Sorry, thank you. Okay, and then all of this goes inside of it. Everything. Well, all of my UI.
All of the UI except for 40. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so I'll just do a little bit of that. All right, so we are now inside of a tabsetPanel.
And let's now add in the ID for the tabsetPanel.
Okay, so ID is going to be dragon tabs?
Yeah, dragon tab, yeah.
Okay.
And great, then let's not do type is hidden. Maybe we write it out and then comment it.
Okay.
Great. And then let's do, all right, so our first one is going to be
yeah, so am I going to put each chunk inside tab panel body?
Let's do it as a tab panel first, but yes, the contents will be the second argument.
Got it. So
second plus argument.
Like tab panel, and then this will be intro.
Yes, I like short, simple names here, even though they may not look pretty.
Feeling a little attacked, but that's fine.
No, I like what you did. Because if there's spaces, we can't update it programmatically as easily later on.
Okay. All right. I was going to show off my one cool trick. All right. Intro question. And then I'm just kind of, the way that I'm doing this, I'm just leaving my headings in here. I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm going to remember to move my commas around. This is the tab panel. And this will be consequences. There are consequences when you choose consequences as your text, because then you have to type it. And then
if you want, you could actually put the play again in the consequences.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Kind of.
Yeah. No.
You died. Do you want to play again?
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like that's usually where it shows up. Oh, space. And I forgot these guys. Oh gosh. All right. Made a mess. Here we go. Whew. Fixed it. Is that everyone? I think so. I'm not getting any errors. So, okay. So I put everything in tab panel. If I run it.
Cool. Yeah. So let's switch to the question, switch to the consequences.
So, one, we would absolutely use this like in a report, right? Like we wouldn't necessarily like continue like, but like data science, data analyst, business intelligence, right? Like this is, oh, here's some intro text or instructions, and here's the, okay. So this does relate to data science, I promise. Yes. All right. So we've made panels. Now what do we do?
So the update method, update tabsetPanel, can be done. So it's programmatic updating, and that can be done with a regular tab panel body, or a regular tab panel or a tab panel body. It's
okay.
required for tab panel body. So let's go ahead and try to do this update tabsetPanel for all of our output or observe events.
Okay, so one thing that I'm noticing in the help documentation is update tabsetPanel is actually happening in our server function. So it's not something we're applying into our UI. We're putting it into our server function.
Correct.
So what I'm seeing is it's in our server function. We have observe events. We have lots of observers. We've got a button pressed. Would I put update tabsetPanel around all of my messages?
Just after. I mean, you can have many lines of code in the observe event, like curly bracket section. That's why we do a curly bracket. So we can just paste it there.
Like that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
But we need to fill out the details of where we're going to and how we're getting there. So first argument is it needs to be the session object. So we'll just do session comma because you're providing that on 55.
Okay, so now my second argument says hidden tabs.
And that will match to the ID of the big tabsetPanel.
And we said that was dragon tabs.
Great.
So we are professionals. And then selected, what is this what's the next argument, I guess is what I'm saying.
Your destination. Where would you like to go?
I would like to go to my cave section. So instead of intro, I would like to go to, can I just put in question?
Yes, question.
Oh, that's it? So like selected equals question?
Yes.
All right.
Great. Let's see if the app works.
Yeah, I was like, we got to test this.
Baby steps.
You are in a land full of dragons. That's so cool. Okay. So then.
So 59 can now be copy pasted kind of in a lot of different places.
Boom.
Yay! And then your console is freed up. Like everything is nice and neat.
Look at that.
Cool.
Okay. So now you said you had some other things, other tricks. There's the hidden.
So let's turn this into hidden. Yeah, so type hidden. And
is that it?
We need to change tab panel body.
So now it's tab panel to tab panel body. Whoa, bode. Tab panel
I can't remember if I did a capital B.
You know what we can do? We're going to come to our friend, the help documentation. Tab
panel body. Yep. And the signature for the function technically changed. So for a tab panel, the ID defaults to the title, which the title is the first argument. Okay. And I just had you provide simple names that could be interpreted as an ID. Mm-hmm. But a tab panel body, the first argument is the ID. So it switches a little bit, but like just because we used nice simple names and we didn't do anything else, it'll work out.
It'll still work. Yeah, we don't have to change it. Right, because if I had done like consequences of decisions,
that's very hard to.
That would be really bad for where we are right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do that. So now, I'm so excited. I think I know what's going to happen. So it took away our tabs. Mm-hmm. There's nothing. So now we can completely direct someone. Oh my gosh. It works. Yes. I feel like there's a lot of good things that we did and we learned here. I think this to me is such an interesting, like obviously making games is a ton of fun. I learned so much just doing this, But then I'm thinking like use cases for this. Like this is a really, if you want to like direct someone through your app, this would be really useful. Or you can like direct them and give them choices. That's really powerful.
Yeah, force the workflow of your
Yeah.
application. Like when you go to intro, you can only go to the question. You cannot go to consequences. You have to go to question. Question
You
can
know,
only go to the consequences.
Barret, this was so cool. It was so, I don't want to say it was easy because I still get stumped on reactivity. But like, I thought this would be the hard part was hiding the tabs and like the conditional stuff. But that was ridiculous. That was so easy. That was
But you can also imagine if you didn't have the logic, the transition logic, and the other things. Like if we hit everything first, it's really hard to debug. Like, how do you know if your consequences are working right now? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So just do the tab panels at the end.
Lesson learned. Thank you for not letting me go down the path I tried to go down.